Sometimes one win feels like so much more. The context around how it was done and what had been going on within the season for that team, right? And Dub Nation, we're down bad. 3 losses this week. It's the holidays, right? It's been a rough week for Warrior fans. And so we needed that win regardless of how it happened. But how it happened is what made it special. And after that big win last night, I turned on this new show with Billy Bob Thornton. It's about the oil companies down in Texas. And he ends up killing this rattlesnake with a shovel. And the girl turns to him and goes, "Did you have to kill it? It was a baby." And he looks at her and he says, "The young ones have the most venom." That brings me to Jonathan Kuminga. Not to metaphorically call him a snake, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. It's a young man's game. And the young players, a lot of the time, have the most venom built up. And listen, we can talk about feel, fit, ball handling, right? It's been debated all season. For the last 3 years, it's been debated, right? What's not talked about enough with Jonathan Kuminga is
that boy has the juice.
The mentality and the motor to be a star. You know, there's a lot of talented guys around the league with a lot of ability and a lot of could be doing it, right? And I don't even want to use Wiggs because he's been so good for us this year. I'll go back a little bit for the OGs. Remember Larry Hughes? Remember Larry Hughes when we got him from Philadelphia? He had all the talent to be a star, right? To be a number one, a franchise guy. He didn't have the mentality and the motor, the juice, the competitive spirit. And Jonathan Kuminga does. And that's hardware, right? That's not software. That's not something you can patch through in an update. That's not something you can work on in an off season. It's just kind of your mental makeup and your mentality. And Kuminga has it in spades. But it's funny how life works, right? Because a lot of things happen out of necessity. Yeah, I think an easy example is you have a family with several siblings, right? The older kid usually matures quicker because they have to. Right? They're taking care of their younger siblings, and it's just like a natural course of things. And the reality is this passing of the baton or letting Kuminga step into this role, it was only ever going to happen out of necessity. In this last miserable month of basketball for the Warriors, that's what it took for Steve, Steph, and Draymond to finally give in to this because they had to. They had no choice. Kuminga snatched it. It was out of necessity. Now, we all understand this starts and stops with Steph. I'm not trying to get carried away here, right? But at the same time, if we're really truly honest with what our eyes have been showing us over this last month is the chef is slowing down. LeBron is slowing down. KD is still KD, right? But even KD, and we'll talk about that here on the Patreon, but Jonathan Kuminga just in the nick of time. Just in the nick of time, right? It's crazy how out of necessity these things happen. By the way, patron members, usually my breakdowns are out between like noon and 1. The Sun local games out here are blocked out for me. I have to watch them like over the air, so I can't get my recording done on time. I've got to record it this morning. In fact, as we speak, I'm recording it. So that breakdown will be out later this afternoon. And if you want to know about my thoughts on Draymond yelling at Buddy, KD, Kerr, like the other stuff of this game, you'll find that there. But I wanted to keep this focused on Kuminga because that's what matters right now. Speaking of my patron, I had a back and forth with my guy Thomas in the comments yesterday, and he was kind of basically like, "Hey man, pick a side. Are you rocking with Kuminga or not?" You know, and that's what's been with Dub Nation. The line in the sand has been drawn, and I'm here to say, I don't know. Like, it's okay to say, I don't know. I'm conflicted. Now, over the last month, I've seen enough from Kuminga where I'm like, hey, I'm not willing to give him up for some mid-star. He's just, because this didn't just happen overnight. Like this last month, it's been building to this, the Houston game, and then even Steve and Draymond going to the bench, right? Like they've seen it happening, but it couldn't just happen like that. It kind of had to get to this point here, right? But I saw enough from Kuminga in the last month where I was like, I'm not the Cam Johnson, right? I know that's like the name out there. Like I have a tough time doing that when you consider what Steph and Draymond have looked like at this point. at the same time, you know, if it's going to happen, if it's not going to work out, if he and Kerr continue to butt heads, they're not going to like give him, empower him more. Then my point is, me suggesting a trade doesn't mean that I don't like Kuminga and I don't believe in him. It's just like dealing with the reality. Well, hey, if we're going to do this, maybe this, right? And so I just don't think it's as black and white as having to pick a side. Like, I'm conflicted with it. I think we all are. And that's part of the problem. Now, that brings me to Kerr. Hot button topic a little, maybe, kinda, right? Listen, he deserves plenty of criticism. He does, right? At the same time, it's not black and white for me. I'm willing to criticize him. I'm also willing to give him credit where it is due. And when was it? Last week when he made the comments about taking 17-footers and basically don't take mid-rangers, I didn't like how he did it. I wouldn't have really had a problem with him telling Kuminga that, but to do it through the media, I was like, this is just right. I think we all agreed, like, this doesn't look like it's headed into a good place. Well, what has happened since then? Jonathan Kuminga looks like baby Giannis. And so I may not have liked how it's been handled, and there's been plenty of things, again, to criticize Kerr from, but the proof is in the pudding. And again, since he's made those comments, what is Kuminga back-to-back career nights, and we ride him home for the much-needed victory last night against the Phoenix Suns. It's not going to happen every night, right? But the building towards this, and I think Draymond, Steph, and Steve really finally not just accepting, but seeing that Kuminga is capable of this could change the season, could turn the season around. And then if you do dive into the context of how it went down last night, I think the important thing also to acknowledge is it's not that he just had 34 points. It's when he had them. It was down the stretch, down in the fourth quarter. They were clutch baskets and they were going to him. And the point is again, it's Steph at this point in his career, we've all seen it. There's nights where he's not going to have it. And now, if they truly believe in this second option in young Jonathan Kuminga, lean on him. It takes pressure off Steph, and then he's going to have less nights where he doesn't have it because they haven't had to lean on him every night, if that makes sense. Now, Underdog, y'all know the deal. We play it. We have fun with it. Tonight, I like Wemby's higher three-pointers against Minnesota's front line. Have you seen Julius Randle try to defend the three-point line? Right? And then the Rudy mentorship in their relationship, you imagine Wemby's going to be all the way up for the matchup, and he's probably going to let off about 10 threes. So I like Wemby as my pick tonight. But as always, well, I shouldn't say as always, right now, if you're a first-time sign-up, you get a 50% bonus up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Use the code Alchemy. The link will be in the description. But yeah, man, a lot of things happen out of necessity, right? And the Warriors need Kuminga to be this guy. And just in the nick of time, he looks like he's more than ready for it. Again, the mentality, the motor, the competitive spirit, he just keeps coming at you. There's so many talented guys where it's like for spurts, you're like, oh, hey, he's really cooking. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Right? Like Kuminga, if you give him the ball, he's going to relentlessly attack. He's built that way. So it's very encouraging, very exciting. Patrons, the breakdown will be out a little later this afternoon. We'll get into the Draymond stuff, some more Steve stuff, and the details of how we got that big win last night. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.